Alrighty, let's go ahead and talk about the new Reap Skeletons build you've probably been hearing about. You might have seen this as a super awesome build in the early game, an amazing bossing build, and now, no joke, the strongest version of minions that have ever existed in the game. Because these little guys right here casting a basic skill can do this to T4 Belial. And now I'm going to swap over to some Pit Tier 100 gameplay because we do have to talk about the strongest the minion build has ever been, the bugs that inevitably come along with it. Luckily, all of the things that I've already tested so that you can put all those concerns to rest, and also why I think that this is the worst that minions have ever felt to play. That's right. I have a little M. Night Shyamalan twist there. This is the strongest they've ever been, and I think it's nearly unplayable. So let's go ahead and talk about how it can feel so great in the early game, so amazing for bossing, and so absolutely trash for everything else. I do have a build guide for this in case you want to be exploring it yourself. You should only take my bias, but let's jump into that gameplay and let's start talking about it. With Season 10, they have introduced a very innocuous magic perk by the name of Grim Reapers, which says that your skeleton warriors 25% of the time are going to use the basic skill Reap instead of their normal attack. And it turns out that if you have your minions and all of the minion damage scaling that you can add onto them, as well as fully building into basic skills with things like Shard of Varathiel, Pain Gorgers, kind of, and a big old connection of other damage multipliers that are available in this game, you can unironically watch your skeleton warriors use the Reap skill and hit for 1 trillion plus damage. Even on my version of the build that I'm currently running, because I don't have all of the gear that I would need, they are doing upwards of 800 billion damage when all of my buffs are currently procced. And since this is a percentage chance for them to use this skill, that means that scaling with attack speed, making them attack faster, means that you're more likely to proc this every second. And again, there are an insane number of damage multipliers that are in this game specifically for basic skills that all work. So things like adaptability, being able to scale their damage along with your maximum resource is a huge damage multi. Moonrise will actually gain them attack speed and you attack speed and give you the movement speed and gain them a damage multiplier. What this means is that this is the first season where your skeleton warriors were ever really relevant for your damage output. Now that being said, with Ring of Mendeln, they were actually fairly relevant, but considering the Hand of Naz has come out and everybody's using 1,000 mages on the battlefield, not a lot of people were expecting this build to do that great. But another interesting perk that they added into this called Unstable Power means that they can always crit and always overpower whenever they use a basic skill, and there's no cooldown. So if you make it so that they do 150% of Reap's damage, make it crit and overpower 100% of the time, it also means that this skill Reap can build into Rathma's Vigor to gain a massive damage multiplier there. You can use stronger additive damage for overpower damage, because their base damage doesn't matter. It's only when they use the skill Reap. And because of that, we can super target a ton of really big damage multipliers, a ton of huge scaling. And then we can abuse some lesser known systems to be able to eke out even more damage on this. And currently this build, if you're talking about on perfect gear in the end game with the people who are like massively theory crafting on it, is going to clear at least Pit Tier 120, which means it's significantly stronger than what we thought the mage build was going to accomplish. And while this brings minions all the way up into the S tier, it still means they're around our 3rd or 4th strongest build, depending on how far this can push when the people with optimal gear are able to really strive on it. And all of that should be great. It sincerely should be. The issue is something's very wrong with minion AI. Some of the strongest multipliers for this build don't quite work, and I've taken the time to break all of that down so that you can have a better understanding of how all of this will impact your ability to enjoy the game. That being said, as a leveling build, this feels amazingly strong. In the end game for bossing, this also feels kind of really strong until you see something like this. Hello, madams. Just finishing up. They just stop attacking. What the f is happening? Where for whatever reason, your minions just kind of stop attacking. They're not good at walking through corridors. They're not even good at walking past a doorway. And not only that, there's something weird going on with their inability to teleport to you or to releash. That just means they get stuck at the back of a dungeon and then you're sitting there without an army and nothing to do. If you're interested in all of that and you haven't clicked off the video just yet, consider leaving a like, leave a comment down below with anything that might come up while you're watching the video, and also go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We just hit 66,600 some odd subscribers, which means you should be able to see a big old 666 right under my name, which is very cool. But I would much prefer for that number to get all the way up to 100,000 since we're trying to hit that before the end of the year so I can finally get my YouTube clack. If you're willing to help me along with that, I'd really appreciate it. So for the mechanics section, a lot of it relies on your chaos perks. Grim Reaper is going to make it so your skeletons now have a 25% chance to be able to cast Reap. This casts as if you cast it. It is your Reap, your skill ranks, your things that increase Reap's damage. It is a darkness skill. It does do shadow damage, everything like that. They're also going to do 50% more than the base damage of Reap, which is already a pretty nice increase to their overall damage. Unstable Power, though, is going to make it so that whenever they cast Reap, because there's no cooldown on your minions randomly triggering this, it is always going to crit, it is always going to overpower, and it's going to deal double damage on top of that. So this, along with this, means that bare minimum, they're already doing 3 times your normal Reap damage, and 100% chance to overpower on this thing means that we have a ton of multipliers to build into. Even just using something like Brain over Bronze, which is not only going to increase your survivability, make it easier to hit your armor and res cap because they're quite literally lower, but on top of that is going to add a 125% overpower damage multiplier, meaning that whenever they use Reap, they're now doing 2.25 damage. In fact, I went and retested just about every single effect I could think of in the game. Grim Reaper actually working at all. The Skirmisher's 30% damage multiplier works for this as well. If you manage to crit and you take the Skirmisher's crit, that will also apply to their damage. Skill ranks, Gloom, Terror, Crippling Darkness, Bloodless Scream, Aphotic, Reap twice. Warrior twice doesn't work. Reap hitting twice absolutely works for them. Warrior attacking twice, it doesn't make them Reap more often. But I went through and I looked at everything. The only things that really don't work are the new unique aspect for basic skills, the Gospel of the Devotee. The double damage on basic skills work. The damage multiplier from casting another one doesn't. That one kind of sucks. And then very specifically for Pain Gorgers, the unique item which I'm actually still using and recommending for speed clearing, your Skeleton Mastery doesn't work for this, and it also doesn't read the benefit from Grim Reapers, so they're only doing base damage and not 50% increased damage. But we'll touch more on that in a quick second. I was originally seeing some reports that summon additive damage and summon damage multipliers weren't working for this. I went and retested them. All of them were. So in case anybody can actually come up with data that doesn't support that, I wouldn't worry about it. It's legit just skeleton mastery ranks. So now let's talk about Pain Gorgers. Pain Gorgers should be insanely good for this build. The major issue is that the damage that gets echoed out isn't taking into account, like I just said, your skeleton mastery ranks and the increased damage that Grim Reapers is supposed to confer. And if you're poor like me and you only have 60% increased damage from Skeleton Warrior Mastery, this is also not applying to that. So what it basically means is that Pain Gorgers, on average, if you only care about the damage scaling functionality of it, is roughly a 45% damage multiplier. Now, the worse your gear is, so quite literally the less skeleton mastery ranks that you have, the stronger Pain Gorgers becomes. Because bare minimum, it does take that base without those two multis and echo it, and also more than double that echo's damage. Add on to that, it has a huge amount of attack speed, which is really nice. The basic skill ranks is also nice, and then the cooldown reduction for your other skills. And Pain Gorgers is still very good. And if you see other people making these build guides, you're going to see them recommended for speed farming, because a really great part about this is that it helps you spread your damage out. Your skeleton warriors are stupid, and they suck at hitting stuff. So if this echoing damage could go hit a bunch of things around them, and you don't need 15x damage to be able to kill them, then Pain Gorgers is going to put in a ton of work for you. It's just in pit pushing where this is not going to be the best case scenario. And if they ever actually fix these bugs with Pain Gorgers where it doesn't scale properly, this would be best in slot, and it's not even close. The build will want to be using Lidless Wall and Bone Storm. All of that works for all of this as well. The 80% implicit damage from it being a shield in a previous life, as well as the 2x damage from having all the Bone Storms up. The Bone Storms will also grant you attack speed and damage reduction and crit chance, which is all really nice. The crit chance for you, not for them. The issue being that I don't have a Chaos Unique Lidless Wall. That's why you'll notice that I'm using a lot of really bum gear. And in fact, you might even notice that I'm using a non-ancestral amulet because this is the only one that had intelligence and Hellbent commander ranks on it. So your boy's struggling, but I am playing solo self-found, so I think that what I'm showing in that tier 100 clear is much closer to like what your average person's gear is probably going to look like. I mean, hell, I still have a mythic and I still have 1-2 different, chaos uniques on. I'm definitely not complaining, but the rest of my gear, like my incredibly imperfect Shard of Varathiel, is just on the lower end of power. If you're just looking to AFK farm with this thing, I think that's perfectly fine. If you're just looking to boss with this thing, other than the ones that have phases, you're just going to crush them. You're going to annihilate them. It's insane. And this is on crap gear. This is on bad versions of the gear. It's even on an underpowered version of the build itself. That all felt great. It was the moment that I was trying to play good. It was the moment that I was trying hard that the build ran into its issues. This weird leashing issue can generally be solved by just kind of going slower. Like, don't move on from a pack until your mobs have killed everything in that pack, and you'll have a decent enough time. Also, just keeping everything kind of in front of you and all your minions stacked on top of that is the best way to make sure to overlap as much of the Reap damage as you can, since Reap does damage in an AoE. If you are still using Pain Gorgers, you generally don't have to worry about that part so much, but you do still want the monsters to get hit with the Reap, because you're also getting that double hit, the Reap itself and the Echo. But going a little bit slower, making sure everything is packed up really nice, maybe getting some additional tempers on Corpse Tendril size. Again, I'm going to have a build planner down below. Soraka is going to be updating the minion build guide on Maxroll with this version of the build if you want to explore it. If you think that you're having a great time on it and everything I'm saying is hodgepodge, that's also perfectly fine, right? Maybe I am just bad at the game. But there is something wrong. I've submitted these issues over to the developers with clips so that they can try to better pinpoint on what needs to be fixed about it. Bare minimum, maybe we get a command skeleton function out of this, who knows? But hopefully this leads to some positive movement on that front. Again, real quick, let me shill for myself. If you appreciated the video, you appreciate the coverage, the breakdown, the ins and outs, or at the very least the hours that it took me to retest everything to make sure what was and was not working, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. It would mean the world to me. Leave a like on the video as well and comment down below if you've run into any other issues, questions, comments, concerns, weird bugs you don't see anybody else talking about, interesting ways to try the build, or innovations that you think need some more press, some more coverage on them. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you very, very much for watching this video. I truly, truly hope that it helps, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.